Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I have an Adobe XD tutorial for you guys. We're going to be designing a website today. It's going to be a landing page for a marketing company, and we're going to use the illustrations that I showed you guys in the last video, the unDraw video, unDraw.co. If you guys haven't seen that, I recommend checking out that video. It's a great design resource, and we're going to be using it today to make our website look extra nice. So we're going to go ahead and start off in Adobe XD. So here is the project file. I have all the colors and the fonts for you, and I'll also link the symbols when we're done. So when you guys download this, it'll look just like this, except you'll have everything you need to follow along with the tutorial. Link will be down in the description. So first thing, I have the standard 12 column layout turned on, and I've just lowered the opacity of the blue to about 6%. I'm actually going to increase that for now. So first up, let's go ahead and make the navigation. And I'm gonna do this with just typing out a text logo, and I'm gonna set that to the logo style I have here. If I click edit, you can see we're using the SF Pro display font, and we are going to be using 28 bold on this, and I need to lowercase that. So there we have marketing U, and I'll put that right here on the second column. We're gonna be skipping a column for our spacing on each side, and we'll put this 44 from the top for now. And over here on the side, we're going to have some links. So I'm just gonna go ahead and type those out. First off, we have product, and I'm gonna select my link text. For our links today, we're using 17 size medium for the Pro display. And we'll just stick that over here for now. And I'll copy this and create a few more. All right, so now we have all of our links: product, discover, platform, support, login, and sign up. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to start by creating our first button, and that is going to be on the sign up text. So I'm just gonna slide those over and focus on this one. I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool and just drag out a simple rectangle. We'll set this to 130 for the width and 50 for the height. So let's send that to the back, Command-Shift left square bracket key, and I'm gonna select both of them, and we'll center them together with the align tools up here. And I'm gonna round this to 1000, so we get that nice smooth round on each side. And let's go ahead and turn this into our red color, which is E53167. And I'm also gonna turn this into white. Make sure they're centered again. And I'm gonna remove the border on the shape. So then we can highlight both of those and hit Command G to group them. And then I'm just going to drag that over here till it touches the side column. And I'm also going to center align that with our logo. And next we're gonna have the login button next to that. So I'm just gonna drag that over there. In between the login and sign up, I'm gonna put 30 spacing. I'm gonna make sure that is centered up nice. And let's go ahead and turn this login to a dark black, which is 222529. For the rest of these, we're gonna put 60 spacing in between support and login. Make sure they're centered. And then we'll drag the rest of them 40 from there. So we have a bigger spacing in between the login and sign up grouping and these. Let's go with 40 and 40. So I'm gonna grab everything and just make sure it's centered again. And this grouping from the top is about 35, so that's pretty good. So next up, we need the heading, and the heading, we're gonna say marketing for the you that never stops moving, and we're going to grab an illustration from unDraw that matches that. So something with some kind of motion and maybe somebody work related. So let's go ahead and type that in. And once I've typed that out, I'm gonna select the H1. And you'll see that font is 65, it's thin, and it's the SF Pro display. We're gonna put that on the second column. We'll worry about the height later. And I'm gonna grab the text area, and let's just drag this in. And then we're just gonna drag down, and then I'm gonna align this to the left. So I'm gonna take this until it touches the top of the center of our artboard. And let's check the spacing on that. And I'm gonna bump that up 20. So we are 363 from the top. So next up after that, we're gonna have some body text that's gonna go below this. And for this is just lorem ipsum. You can actually type something out if you'd like, but this is just going to be a placeholder for me. And I'm gonna select the body, which is the 17 size font, but now it is light. And we'll just place that there, and we're gonna switch this to a area text. And I'm just gonna drag over to about there. I'm gonna place this 17 pixels below the heading. And then I'm gonna go up here and grab the sign up button, hold Alt and drag it down. And this is gonna go 40 pixels below our body text. So there is our sign up button for down here. One thing we need to change is we need to change the width on this to 190. And I'm also gonna bump up the height to 60. And let's ungroup that and just make sure that that is all centered. I'm gonna grab the sign up text and let's change this to get started. So now if I just select my artboard and I turn off my layout, you can see what we have so far. Pretty plain and simple, but overall we have the start of our hero section. I think we're just gonna go from here and I'm gonna select the artboard. I'm gonna go up here to the height value and I'm gonna type in ×2 after the 1080 and it's going to double our screen size. So in this second section down here at the bottom, we're gonna show off two plans. One is gonna be a startup marketing plan and the next one is going to be just a business marketing plan. And we're gonna do that with two cards. So I'm just gonna grab the rectangle tool and drag out a shape. Let's just drag this down to the second section. We can zoom in a little bit. And we're gonna set this to around 600 by 700. I'm gonna round the corners to 15. And then I'm going to add a shadow of this. Y value is going to be 3, and then the blur, we'll set that to 20. For the shadow, I'm going to set this to 18%, and we're going to grab the blue section of our slider, and we're going to go with something around there. And then we'll remove the border. So we have something like this. And I'm going to hold Alt and drag to make two of them, and we'll put 60 spacing in between the two. I'm going to grab them. I'm going to hit Command G to group them just so we can get some spacing. And I'm going to center them to the artboard just like that. And then to check kind of where we want them positioned for this design, I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to select this and it should be about 500 pixels below that. So I'm going to put that exactly 500 below and that'll put these in a good position for the second section. So then we can select them and hit Command Shift G to ungroup them and we can start to work from here. So we'll just create one card and then duplicate it for the second one. So first off, we need some text. So I'm just gonna grab my type tool and type out startup marketing plan. And I'm gonna select the H2 option here, which just drops the large H1 down to 46 pixels in height. I'm gonna set 40 pixels on the side of the card for spacing. And we're gonna place an illustration on the card. So I'm gonna make sure we have plenty of room. So I'm gonna hold Alt and we have 408. Let's drop that down to 415. Below that, I'm gonna grab this lorem ipsum up here and bring it down to the bottom. And I'm just gonna paste in some new lorem ipsum just to change things up a little bit. And we'll drag that down to match the height of the new 3-lined text. I'm gonna put 17 spacing below the heading. It's the same thing we did up here. So keeping that nice and consistent, and 40 spacing on the left side. Now I'm gonna drag the right side over until we have about 40 spacing over there as well. It doesn't have to be exact, 39 is good enough. Next, down below that, we need a link. So I'm just gonna type out learn more. And we'll select the link text, which is the same thing we use on the navigation links. I'm gonna zoom in a bit, and I'm gonna place this 40 below our paragraph, and that should be around 80, I believe, down here. Yep. Let's just bump all this up by 1 pixel to make it an even 80. So now we have 80 spacing below learn more. So finally, we need an icon for learn more. So I'll paste in an arrow, and I'm gonna add that to the symbols panel so you guys have it. And I'll just call this arrow. And we'll center that up with the text. And then I'm gonna drop it down 1 pixel just because of line height spacing. And how much spacing we put in between them doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna go with something like 5 pixels. And then I'm gonna grab both of those and change them to red. So there is our first card. So I'm just going to grab all that, hold Alt, and drag over until it fits onto the next card. And then we have 2 rectangles, so I'll just delete one of them. So now we have the same thing on each side. And so now we'll just change the text from startup to business marketing plan. So now we can continue doing kind of the bare bones work here. So I'm just going to grab the bottom of this artboard and drag down so we have plenty of spacing, and the rest of it's actually pretty simple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to grab the text, hold Alt, and drag down. And I'm gonna go down 500 spacing from the bottom of the card, and that will line us up for the next section. I'm gonna double click on my artboard and grab the grid layout, and we're gonna drag this section of text over 2 columns of spacing instead of 1 like we did up here. Next up, we're going to change this font to say something different. And I'm also going to change that to a text area. I'm going to drag that over until about there, and then we'll drag that down. And of course, we'll have to grab the rest of this and make sure we have 17 spacing below that heading now. So I'm going to delete the Learn More text. And I'm going to go up to the top, grab the Get Started button, Command C, and then go down here and hit Command V and paste that in. And then we'll do the same thing we've been doing, 40 spacing below our paragraph text. Just like that. And this one's going to say Learn More. So this section will have its own illustration. So instead of continuing on down the screen doing kind of the bare bones work, I think we're going to stop here because the next section depends on the illustration and how you guys work that out. So we're going to stop here and we're just going to finish this all the way down to right here. After this, we have one section and then the footer and we're done. So let's go ahead and zoom in here on the hero section and we'll start to create our shapes and drag in our illustrations. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is here in the corner, we have a little blue detail and I'm just going to grab the pen tool. And I'm going to click somewhere around here, and then I'm going to click here and create a curve. And then we'll just continue to go about there, and then I'll just finish that off like that. I'm going to fill that in with blue and remove the border. And then I'm going to double click to then edit all of our points. And so we have a little shape here in the corner, and you can play with this as much as you'd like. I'm going to leave that alone. Next up, I have a little bitty drop of color down here that's red. And so I'm going to grab the circle tool and just drag out an oval. Change the fill to the red, remove the border, and then I'm going to drag that over here to the side. And I'm also going to rotate this at a slight angle and just show part of this like so. Now this is going to be on top of another shape that's going to go right here. So for the next 2 shapes, they're going to be fairly large. And I'm going to have something that kind of flows up like this. So I'm going to grab the pen tool. And since it's behind a card, it doesn't have to look nice. So I'm just going to start somewhere around here. Fill that in with blue. And then remove the border. Double click to edit. And then I'm going to send that to the back. Command Shift left square bracket key. And once I have that, I'm actually just going to widen this whole thing by dragging like that. And we'll drag that down to there. Obviously, in the final version of this that you're going to see, I spent a lot more time working on these lines, making sure they're all curved and looking nice. And I highly suggest you guys do that when working with the pen tool here in Adobe XD. But we're going to move on to the next shape. And the next shape is going to be kind of a curvy little half opaque splash of blue behind this next card. So I'm going to grab the pen tool one more time, connect that, and then we'll fill that in with blue as well. And then I'm going to drop this down to around 10 to 20 opacity and hit Command Shift left square bracket key to send to the back. Let's turn off our layout. And I'm going to double click to now edit my curves. I'm going to bring this one up a little higher. All right, so that's the next section. So that kind of looks like it's flowing into that piece right there. And as we go down, I have another little red circle. So I'm going to grab that one up at the top and hold Alt and drag it down. And I'm going to put this one at another angle. And it goes somewhere around there. Will look good. And we'll drop that down to 10% opacity, just like we did with this. Now from here, we have a big shape. And this big shape takes up almost half of the screen. And this is why we stopped here. So I'll show you kind of how I did that. So I'm going to grab the pen tool and we'll start around here. And we want to curve around this shape. So I'm going to click and add a point here. Fill that in with blue. And we'll definitely have to make some adjustments to that. But first, I'm going to double click on my artboard and turn back on my grid. And my text for this section is actually going to start right in the center almost of the artboard. So here's the center line, and then here's this column. So we want this shape to come out to there. So I'm just going to drag that out to that edge. And now we can make this look way better. Okay, so that shape kind of works for me. I might slightly change this in a minute, and you'll see why when we continue on. So the next thing I want to do is grab this again and hold Alt and make a copy of this. And we'll position this. Here is the center. I'm gonna go just a little bit more in than that. And here, compared to this big round, I'm gonna go slightly down. So this one I'm just kind of visually adding here. So you'll see we've been doing 500. This one's around 400. That's okay. And we'll just put that somewhere around there. One final shape that we have is another circle. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to change this to blue and turn the opacity all the way up and then just slightly change the angle of that. And we'll put that kind of in this little dip right there. So that's very rough, but those are the shapes that we're going to be using. And that's actually all of the shapes. So now we can start to import our illustrations. So at this point, you would head to unDraw.co, link will be down in the description. And what I did was search for illustrations related to these sections. So business or marketing or walking or movement. And I used this color code for the blue we've been using, which is 3480E3. And I found a bunch of those, so I'm gonna paste one in. And this one's roughly 612 by 561 in size. And I'm just going to position that to the center. I'm gonna group this text together and center that up. And I'm also going to touch it onto this last column edge there. And then I'm going to drop it down 10. So we're 253 from the top and then we're 262 from the side. So there is our first illustration. So if we hit the live preview option, you can see that our design is starting to really take shape. Going on down, we have an illustration for each one of the cards. So I'm just going to paste those in and you can make these as big as you want. We have plenty of room here. So I'm just going to make sure it's just centered with the card and you can kind of position that however you want. I'm gonna go like 80 from the top to match the spacing that we did down here on the bottom. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this one over here. All right, so there is our two cards with their illustrations. So let's turn off the layout and you can get a good feel for what we've got going on. And then if we keep going down, we need another illustration for this section. So to line this up, I'll group this text together. Command G, and then I'm going to paste in my image and I'm going to center that up with that. And this one, I didn't really pay attention to any of the columns for the positioning. I kind of just placed it wherever it visually looked nice, which I think right there it kind of does. For the last one, we're actually going to modify the illustration a little bit. So I'm going to do that one with you. So here on unDraw.co, I like this messaging app. So I'm going to paste in my color code and then I'm going to select this one. And you'll see that it has some kind of blue chat. So I'm going to download this, go back to XD. I'm just going to drag this in. All right, so with this dragged in, you'll see that it's kind of going to clash with this blue shape because that's where we're going to put it. So what we're going to do is I'm first going to double click to go into the drawing. I'm going to grab this shape and I'm just going to delete it. So now we just have the chat bubbles and the kind of leaf over here. So I'm going to grab all of these and I'm going to change these to one of the gray colors over here. Let's just go with this one for now and see how that looks. So then I'm going to drag that over here and that looks pretty good. So I want our head to be kind of around the top of that text and we do have to change this text. So we'll do that in a minute. And I don't want the spacing of this curve in to be even seen. I want it to be kind of hidden. So I'm going to place that around there and then I'm going to hold shift and begin to drag this to a bit larger, so that the bottom of this circle can be kind of down here below this curve. So I'm just going to keep going until I get somewhere around there. And I'm going to put it right there and I'm just going to adjust the shape from here. I'm just going to make this a little smaller of a curve. Kind of drag it out like that. So you can't actually see what I just did there, but you can see how that looks nice. It's blending with the shapes that we're using on the page, which I think looks great. So we'll put that back over there and then we'll just adjust this curve like that, and we'll put that shape in that little pocket. And so that shape kind of blends with the page. So the last thing we actually have to do for this is the footer. So we pretty much have everything done except that. And I'm just going to drag down so we have plenty of spacing, and I'm going to turn back on my layout grid. So first thing for our footer, we're going to do more of a detailed footer and show all the pages. We need our logo. So I'm going to go back up to the top, just grab that, Command C. And we'll just go down here and Command V that in. And then you'll notice I'll have footer logo in here for you. It's going to change that to 17. And I'm also going to change that to align left. And we're going to put this on the first column. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. The next thing I'm going to do is copy this, and I'm going to change this one to medium. So we'll just go to a medium size, and this one's going to be navigation. I'm going to skip a bar, so a column, and I'm going to call this one legal. And then I'm going to skip a column, and I'm going to call this one contact us. And then we can put our pages in below that. So I'm going to hold Alt and drag down. And I'm going to change this from the black to our body color. And I'm also going to change this to our body text, which is going to make that light instead of medium. And the first one is going to be home. I'll do the same for the legal section, so I'm just going to copy all those over. And lastly, for the contact us. And now that I've done that, I forgot to change this text up here, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to drag all this down and out of the way, paste in my bit of text, expand this so we can see it all. And then we'll position this 17 below. And then we need to change this to chat support. And before we finish the footer, I'm going to double check and make sure we've done everything else. I believe we have. Okay, so for the final thing on the footer, I'm going to paste a bit of information and then the copyright text in. So I'm just going to drag this down here, and I'm going to position that to the same height as the first of our pages. And I'm going to paste in a little bit of a different text, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll hold Alt and go down. I'm going to line this line up with the top of the Discover section, and then paste in all rights reserved. And we can even change that to a point text if we want. So after that, we can turn off our layout, and then now we can begin to space this out. That looks good. So I'm going to group that. So I'm just going to grab this grouping, and I'm going to put about 200 spacing below the bottom element, which is kind of this little shape over here. So we'll do 200, and then from the bottom of the page, we'll do about 100. So we'll half that. There's 75, 93, 105. That's good. And so that is our page. I'm pretty sure done. Again, you guys can finalize the shapes to look even better if you want. Some of mine are kind of a little pointy here. But overall, that is how you create this landing page with shapes and colors and illustration from unDraw.co. A tip for you guys, if you're going to make a website that has these sections with an image on one side and the text on the other, mix it up a little bit and do something kind of like this. It just makes a nice little touch to the page and kind of changes things up from this common section that you have throughout the page. So here is actually what the web page looks like. And that is it for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe for more design and code related content. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.